Okay, so today we are going with another interesting topic which is about gene and gene locus. Quite interesting, we'll cover out everything here. So, before that, gene, I'm sure you would be known, this is simply a unit of heredity, and you'll find a better definition in the book. What exactly that says? Gene is something which is present inside the DNA, and DNA is something like DNA, of course, double. We have covered that in very detail. So, gene which is present in DNA is kind a small part of DNA which will have information. So, they simply say if this the location, if this the DNA simply. So here this part, we consider this part have a information of such things. This part basically would be named as gene, right? So that's basically gene, unit of heredity present in the small part if you just read it out. But before that, of course, we need to cover these all things. So gene, which is a small part of DNA, has information to synthesize protein, a specific polypeptide chain that work as enzyme to metabolize a specific reaction in living organism. It means physically a gene is made up of nucleotide sequence. So nucleotide was what, our DNA, which is again made up of three different things. What were these? First one called as a nucleotide, second one called as a phosphate group, third one called as a sugar, pentose sugar. So these three, it's been nucleotide, all the nitrogenous bases. So they are telling the gene is made up of nitrogenous bases. Well, now comes gene locus. When we talk about the gene locus, this is simply a position where gene is going to be put. So the position is called as a gene locus. Before that, there was one scientist. He was named as a Mendel's. In metric, even we would have studied about this. Mendel have laws, so many law of segregation and these all. What does he told? He told if you'll take. He told about the factors. If of course we know chromosomes are taken from both our mother and our father both, right? So from when it taken from mother, if for suppose they have the gene, which gene or the factor that's basically called as a T, which means that's T tall, tall and dog factor, or T capital and T small. This means they're telling now they both are going to be different. So Mendel's law was according to, and even the gene which we say today was before named as what, pro pen gene. Pangene was basically the name given to this one. So let's read it out, you'll get it very clear. So 19th century there was a scientist with George John Mendel, which was like he was the first time who introduced the concept of gene. At the time he said that the gene is something which controls the expression of a character, but later on it was considered more. So when Mendel told about this all things, if he was taking only the one this part, at that time he gave this part name as a factor. So this means every single part that was at the time called as a factor, right? So it's even written here, he introduced it as a factor because at the time he was not sure about the concept of gene, because no one was accepting him at that time. So at the time it was okay in the biology, then the name was given as a gene. The gene simply means genos, like Greek word genos, which means generation of a birth or a gender, which is simply basic unit of heredity. And even later on, after like 20 years, in 1909, there was a scientist, which was William Johnson, who introduced the term gene, who introduced this term in 1906. But then the term gene was also called as pen gene before that, because then William Benson and Edward Starsberg give this name as a pen gene. But before that it was called as a pen gene for fundamental physical and functional unit of heredity. So I hope it will be clear. Then we have different terms here, so many things quite important. So the position of gene basically called as a gene locus. Locus is something, a plural word when we talk about, that's called as a loci. So, and yes, here's the interesting thing. We already know that both parents of an organism donate one set of chromosome. Of course, we know we also get a gene chromosome from mother and father both. This means we'll get two set of chromosomes, right? When we get two sets of chromosome, one is this one is this one. So if we talk about the gene locus, so if for suppose this is the gene locus, and here on the same position there's gene locus, right? So what they'll say, I'm just giving you the summary of entire paragraph which will go to read in the next after a few minutes. So here this position called as a gene locus which carry out information. So here information is for suppose for skin. We know our skin color could be white. This is for suppose mother. This is for suppose our father. So here this is called as a skin which is white, carrying white chromosome gene information. Here the skin which is kind of black or not as white. So this means these both are different genes, but still we have gotten two sets from our parents. Now in that that does not matter either that it would be black or brown or white, any color. They're saying that the gene locus, the position should always be the same, either that even after that gene, and the character should also be same. So here character is about skin, this character, and same goes on that side, the skin is a character, and it does not matter what they carry out, either that's a black gene character or a white gene character. So here we'll read it out. So we know there are two sets of chromosome, they are the pairs simply, and one we get from maternal, this means our mom, and the paternal chromosome from our father. So these chromosomes basically which have the same gene loci. So yes, when we call that gene loci, the position should be same, then we call that chromosome is a homologous chromosome, right? And they are morphologically different chromosome and have different gene loci. And the one who have different gene loci, that's basically called as heterologous. Even homo word else there will be something related to same, hetero means different. So what happens at the homologous chromosome, a trait or a particular locus which may be similar or different. This means their position can be same, can be different. Their gene, their character can be same, cannot be same. If here was an example as well, it may be black color of both, it may be different color as well. So here was example, black or white. This alternate form of gene is trait called as the alleles. Alleles are simply a trait which is located uh, at the same gene locus, that's called allele. Then we have Mendel, a scientist who found that two alleles for each trait. He observed that then he took the 7 traits in the one plant called as PCM plant. He found that there was alternate form of each trait, either that his length of PCM plant which has two alternate forms, either a tall and dwarf. So this means they're telling the different gene. So the alternate formation of genes, locus, homologous chromosomes, also called allele. Now later on it was found that this may contain trait number of alternate form, not only two. So yes, this all things I hope it will be very much clear. Then comes the example like in picture form. So let's read it out. First thing, homologous chromosome and heterozygous chromosome, which means the one which will dominate would be able to show their more character. So when we talk about here, so this means pp, this means the gene loci is simply the position. So these three position called as gene loci. Here we have dominant allele because B small, B capital. Here dominant is the one which will going to represent. After on, recessive is the one which will not be able to show their own. And here A is also same. So gene is one which we see the presence. Recessive is the one which is not going to be shared. So homologous, the same structure, same chromosomes. Then genotype, which was homozygous, and this one basically called heterozygous. So I hope entire thing about gene, basically unit of heredity, part of so many things. Gene locus is simply kind of position. That position can varies. The Mendel tells about this one, and entire thing. I hope it will be very much clear. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.